Welcome to the Pathways to Prosperity podcast, where we explore personal, professional, and financial success stories of top achievers. Let's dive in.
Hello, and welcome back to Pathways to Prosperity podcast. Today, we're here with Kara Pelletier. She actually has recently retired from Nationwide, and we're here to learn a little bit more about her story. How are you here? How are you today, Kara?
Very good. Thank you, Terrence.
Awesome. Can you give us a quick snapshot of where you are today?
With respect to my journey on the residential assisted living, or our
What got
lives?
you to that point, and then we
What
can
got us
address
to that
that.
point? Okay.
Yeah.
So in 2020, during the pandemic, I was in my 30th year of employment with a major national insurance company. And everybody remembers that, right? The schools were closed. Everybody's online. It was absolute chaos. My employer was in panic mode. I was a long-term employee. I was eligible to retire that year on my birthday. And my husband and I sat down and just put a pencil to it. And I was glad I did it. It was a tough decision, but I retired that year at the end of the year in 2020. So how that links to where we are today is, obviously we all made it through the pandemic, thank goodness. And after a couple of years of being retired, I wanted to do something, but I didn't want to go back to the industry that I had spent over 30 years in. So my husband and I, because we're older and we have assets and capital and, we own real estate, and we just thought, wow, why don't we look into franchising? And we've kind of fit the demographic for that. So we even had a franchise broker. And during that process, first of all, we learned a lot of things, but one of them was we didn't want to invest and do a franchise. We learned that for a host of reasons. But in that was like a year-long process. We really got into it. I mean, we worked hard at some really different business models and franchises. And one of them was a business model where you helped people stay longer in their homes, was the premise. It had a lot of the things that we wanted. We wanted to help people. We wanted to be part of the community. We wanted to obviously make money. And we wanted to be able to eventually grow it to a place where we could be absentee owners, because we were about 10 years from retirement. And just wanted the cash flow in the business, and maybe we could get our kids involved in it, that kind of a thing. So in exploring that particular franchise, they did like grab bars, ramps, things to help people stay in their home longer. And I learned through that investigation, if you will, and research about that whole industry, I learned about the silver tsunami. Although I lost my interest in that particular franchise and franchising in total, I was intrigued by this business model and what was going on with the silver tsunami. So I just became immersed in it for like at least another year or more. Watched YouTube videos. I was even almost to the point of hiring a contractor, because we were getting ready to like make some big moves in our home, because during this journey, it became really obvious to me that the home that we live in now had a really great footprint. It was in a great location. It's on a busy road, a busier road. It's not stuck away in a neighborhood and an HOA. It's a non-HOA. The city of Phoenix is where we live, and it had a lot of incentives from the city. And it's a great location. There's a lot of people moving into this area, and the property itself just seemed to me to be perfect to renovate into an assisted living home, a residential home. And my mother had lived. She passed away in 2018, but she had lived at least 8 or 10 years in an assisted living home, and I had a lot of experience with it. We were fortunate. She wasn't always in the one she ended up being in for the most of her last of her years, but it was a really well run. So I had a good idea of, from the customer standpoint and watching how well they took care of my mother, what was involved with that. I really didn't, but I thought I did. So we were really looking into, trying to be the owners, hire a operator, and renovate our property and do all the capital investment to start a residential assisted living home. And we got pretty far down that path. And then my husband and I started really kind of looking at the situation, and we went, we can't do this. We can't do this by ourselves. We aren't contractors. We aren't, we don't have any, medical background. We don't have the hard, what really tripped it for us was trying to find an operator. Like, you almost have to build it and then they will come, and you have to cross your fingers that you're going to get in with a really good operator who will run the business and treat the clients the way you would want them treated, and
Absolutely.
still be able to make money.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's kind of how I found, Terrence. I just posted something on Facebook. I would belong to like a national Facebook residential assisted living page, and was, really great information on that. So one day I just thought, I'm just going to see if there's an operator out there that we could get in on the ground floor with, and they would come with us in the journey, versus us spending literally hundreds of thousands of dollars and risking our net worth and our retirement and our children's college education. We'd be risking it all.
Yes.
And to see if they would join us and invest with us and then become a partner. That was kind of where I was headed. And so I did make a post, and you private messaged me back and said, tell me what you got. And we went from there.
Yeah. No, and that was one of the first things that I noticed when we first spoke, is that you had already taken the time to educate yourself, and that you hit on many of the key things for us that are extremely important to us, and putting investors together with operators. And because you did so much of your due diligence ahead of time, I didn't have to educate you on why it was so important that the operator does extremely well, and that we want to focus on that so that the long-term stability is there for you in the business as well. I mean, it's easy to find plenty of people who'll jump in and do it, as long as they think it's going to be as we were speaking about before, easy,
Right. Right.
And even as we've been starting our journey together on this, it's one thing I've always stressed is there's nothing easy about it, but it's every step of the way there's a fight, no matter how well prepared, no matter how well you think you did things, there's always things to, rattle the cage, and you got to keep working right on through those. I do want to stress one thing, and I find it funny because, as you had mentioned, you posted about, you thought your home would be great. And I probably expressed to you some hesitancy, because we get offered homes, I mean, probably on a monthly basis, especially here in our Florida market, of people that, they know somebody who knows us, who knows our reputation, and they're like, my home is perfect. Unlike 98% of the homes I looked at, actually your home was phenomenal for, what we do, on the boutique side. And, we definitely seen the opportunities from there, for us to partner together, obviously. Can I ask maybe one or two of the things that set us apart from other people that, gathered your interest? I mean, it sounds you did. I know you did, but you've expressed to me you've done a lot of research and study. So
absolutely. Because one of the things that was pretty clear to us, because Phoenix is really becoming, it's growing like crazy just in general, but the whole residential assisted living space is really, just taking off. And in some ways it's kind of out of control. There was a lot of people who want to be operators, but when you kind of peel back a little bit, they may have a medical background, maybe a doctor or a nurse, but they've never been an operator. They've never administered a residential assisted living home. And they wanted, and Pete and I, my husband, Pete, we did not want to go with someone who'd never done it before. We wanted someone who was maybe looking for a second home, or a third home. Like they already had their business model down. They were successful. They were looking to expand. That was our targeted operator. That's who we wanted to partner with. Because we didn't feel like we had enough runway in our lives to recover from a pretty significant business adventure, because of our age and stuff. We just didn't want
You
that
mean
additional.
of being 42, you don't think you have enough runway, right?
No, we're a little more than 42. We just, because when you're in your 30s and 40s, you can take bigger risks, and
Yes,
you
ma'am.
should take risks,
Yeah.
and we took those risks, and sometimes they didn't pan out, and sometimes they did. But at our age and where we were like, we really just couldn't, like, and there were eager people who were really competent in their profession, but we just didn't want to move forward with them because we just didn't want that risk of actually creating a residential assisted living business from scratch with someone who didn't have the experience. So to answer your question, that's why when you and I had that first Zoom call, I got really excited because you had already been established. You've written books. You'd been established. You seem very interested in what I told you our footprint was here, and the location, the way I described the house and the property and everything. You got interested as well, and I remember getting off that call with you, and I was thinking, gosh, I hope we can do something with this fellow, because he's exactly what we were looking for. And I, of course, immediately went online and looked up your is it Olivia Rose?
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
In Florida,
Yep.
and was super impressed with what your online footprint is and all of that. And I got more excited then, because then you were like legit, right? You weren't, in my mind, you weren't, just putting on a big sting to get some capital out of some old couple in Arizona.
Yes, yes.
But
No,
anyway,
and that's the big thing once again for us, is that, none of this has been easy. And I don't say that to discourage people, but I say that to understand that if you're willing to push through all of the struggles, and, from my investor standpoint, it seems easy, and not that we're mad about it. That's what we chose to do. But, I do stress, it's the heartaches and the struggles that we go through are real. And now we are finally to a point where we are able to start creating more, even further authority in the industry. Because our homes stay full, because of the reputations that we have, now we can create waiting lists of people that will be ready to move in as soon as we have that opening. Instead of an opening and then, oh,
yeah,
thankfully we've always been full, but we've had people waiting. But we're looking, as we open additional homes here locally and out there, now we're looking at how do we have those homes ready to be filled when they get open. And similar thing with your home. When we're done there, we want to have that home filled within 3 months of opening.
sure.
Because of those experiences, we're able to put those things in place and implement those. And like I said, for us, it was easy as well, because you had taken the time to educate yourself. Most of the time I spend a lot of time with my investors. Now, granted, we still have spent a lot of time going through things together and going through a lot of stuff, but initially, usually I spend a lot more time with my investors just on educating them in the business, and ensuring that they feel the same way that you do, that their heart is in the right place. This is a phenomenal return, but it needs to have all the players being in the right place for this to be, at least in our model, to be successful.
Yeah,
Our families know our hearts. They know everybody that's involved's heart in it, and some of the exciting things we're excited about is we get to implement some things we don't even have because of working with you guys, the garden, um, fresh poultry, these are things that we're super
yeah,
excited to add. And eventually we're hoping to add into everything if we could have the footprints that allow those things.
right.
Um, so as you guys go into the future, when we grow here, and expanding going forward, you had mentioned your husband's still working.
Yes.
And so do you guys have any other plans in the next few years of what you guys are hoping to do, or for you and
Yeah,
your family?
Yeah, we do. Our youngest is a junior in high school, and so our goal is to stay in this area because we're not going to move her out of school. That would ruin her life, of course. She's already mentioned that. Although I could make an argument that sometimes adversity is good for you.
Yes, yeah.
But anyway, we're going to stay in the Cave Creek area where we live in Arizona. And then once we get her settled into college, we have a son in college now. Our plan is to position ourselves financially uh, where my husband can retire. And he's kind of a workaholic, so I don't know that I'll be able to drag him away from doing something. Um, Especially we have to cover the gap between employment, healthcare, and Medicare. So
Hmm.
that's probably something he'll be doing to, but not the heavy lift that he's got going now. So be a much less income, obviously, but we want to semi-retire him until we get a little further down the path. But we want to travel. We would like to eventually uh, live in the southeast somewhere on a lake. That's kind of our, long range goal, and continuing to nurture and our investments and our um, the cash flow of the situation, and just help our kids through college and get them fully launched. And that's pretty much our 10-year. That's about our 10-year plan. 8 to 10 years.
Awesome. I do want to just fall back to one thing you had mentioned, and I probably glossed right over it, but you had mentioned, when you're younger in your 20s and 30s about taking more risk. Um, could you delve into that? Not necessarily
Sure.
per se what the risks were, but maybe like even some of the bigger challenges that you had. A
Yeah.
lot of times it helps people to understand that it wasn't all rosy.
Oh no,
Um,
yeah, I'd be happy to tell you. So, my husband and I were in our mid 30s when we met and got married, and he's a PhD engineer, and he's an inventor, really.
oh,
And he had an invention, or he still has it, and we had it patented, and we started a business, and he worked out of the garage, and the invention is basically um, instant briner. It's electroporation instant brine handheld device that home cooks could use to, instead of waiting 4 to 6 hours to brine your meats. Because of his work in science at Arizona State University, he was doing cancer research on how to porate cells to take in cancer killing drugs, but not kill all the other cells around it.
oh.
So the science is the same in meat cells, in chicken or beef or whatever. So anyway, he transferred that technology into a consumer device, basically, and we had it patented. And we probably spent $100,000 between the patent and lawyers, and um, just the to make the prototype was very expensive. Getting the molds, it's just expensive, and it was a great learning journey. And we were very, for about 10 years, we worked on that, a good 10 years, and started our family and stuff. And my husband did most of that because I was working full time for that insurance company. Um, and we never could get it off the ground. We just couldn't get it didn't take off. We couldn't get it sold. We had it on Amazon at one point, um, and we have some theories as to why, but regardless, that was one where we took a lot of risk. We invested, our blood, sweat, and tears, and our treasure into that, and it just didn't work out. Now, we would probably not do something like that these days, but
Mhm.
we were in our mid 30s, and we were comfortable in terms of we owned a nice home in Scottsdale, and we had little kids at the time, and we just were like, let's go for it. We don't want to sit around in our later years and say, we should have got a patent for that. We should have done
Mhm.
this. We should have done that. So that's one area where we took a significant risk, and it just didn't work out. And he has a couple other invention ideas, but we didn't really pursue them as much as we did he called it the flavor key. That was the name of the
Okay.
invention. And it's pretty cool. We still use it today. We use it every time we cook meat. We flavor key our meat. So it really does work. We just were, it was difficult to get it to market. We couldn't get, it's like you guys, if you ever watched, what's the show where they do the Shark Tank?
Yeah.
If you listen to those investors on that show, they don't want to talk to inventors who don't have sales.
Yes. Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yes, ma'am.
And
Yes.
yeah, so you have to have X amount of sales. They want to
Mhm.
see that's the hard part, is getting
Mhm.
sales. I mean,
Yeah.
really the hard part is having an invention and getting it through a patent and all that. But
Mhm.
really, we couldn't get the sales. We didn't have the capital to pursue marketing and we did a lot of things to try to get it to market in a lot of different spaces, YouTube and social media, and going around to barbecue shows and all kinds of stuff we did to try to get sales. And it just didn't sell.
Hmm.
So eventually we had to abandon it, but I'm glad we had the experience. I don't regret the experience or the money or anything.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's one thing that we took a risk on.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing I like to share with people. It's easy to look at someone doing well today and think that, once again, as I think I've already said, that it was all easy and a rosy, trip, and boy, everything you touch turns to gold. That's what I express to people.
Yeah.
It's a lot of up and downs, and my wife can attest to that. Especially with me being an entrepreneur myself. It's one day you're high and the next day you're low, and it's just always fighting through that. So,
Yeah.
I do want one of your instant briners though. Well, I don't know
Yeah.
what it costs, but I
No,
love
we
the
have,
idea.
yeah, no, next time, yeah, Pete he'd be thrilled to give you one, especially
Yeah.
if you like brine chicken and marinate.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially to get that done quickly. If it really flavors it instantly, I love that idea.
Yeah,
I don't
six
have the
minutes.
time to
Yeah.
spend doing those things that I used to do anymore. So, but yeah, no, I definitely appreciate you coming on, sharing a little bit about your story, and hopefully later in the future we can have you guys back on and get a little bit more as well. But we appreciate you taking the time out of your day and sharing this with us, and hopefully you'll come back again. Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the
Thank you.
invite.
Yeah, absolutely. Bye bye.
Thanks for listening to the Pathways to Prosperity podcast. Got a success story to share? Visit pathwaystoprosperitypodcast.com/guest and apply today.